all them palm trees swaying in the breeze, and the Negroes smoking that bangi, is what the Africans call it, ganji. Hey man, the Negro, I'm in paradise. So, you know, I stopped smoking it. When I went to Europe, I took some with me. They didn't search nothing. I called it Tanzanite.
Kryptonite.
Yeah, Tanzanite. That was bad weed. I didn't smoke it, I just took some with me for the heck of it. I had quite a bit of it. So it was my ticket into the people in Copenhagen. You know, they used to smoke bowls. You could smoke hashish right in there. They still do it, I guess. It was all legal. You sit right there in the thing and just, boy, this is a nice place here. So I gave a few joints to everybody. And a lot of it, I gave a lot of it away. And I had some left. And one day we was riding down the street with Isaac Hayes and them on down the you know, we like Riverside Drive, the river's over here, and the music is on. I smoked it. I said, oh yeah. I didn't give out no more, I kept the rest for myself. You know what it was? In Africa, I was out of my environment. But in Europe, I analyzed it later, in Europe, that's where you smoking weed, riding down the boulevard. I said, oh, this is all right. Isaac Hayes blasted, it was fine. But in the jungle, hey man, I don't have no reason to be out. You know what I mean? Maybe it was cultural. But anyway, here's what we're reaching at. This is Afro-Futurism of Black Panther. The Afro-Futurism of the Black Panther. The cultural critic Mark Drury something to galvanize a generation of artists and intellectuals when he argued during the 1990s that African Americans whose histories had been obscured by slavery and racism were in danger of being written out of the future as well, unless they engaged in areas of art, literature, and technology through which the future was being envisioned. Mr. Drury coined the term Afro-Futurism to describe the work of artists who use the tools of science fiction to imagine possible futures. Okay, let me try to explain. Afro-Futurism. A better future, but it's hooked up in science fiction. And science fiction writers like Samuel Delaney and Octavia Butler, and fantastical orchestra leader Sun Ra something, who carried the name of the ancient Egyptian sun god and offered an allegory of salvation in which African Americans were urged to escape tribulation by immigrating to the stars. Okay, but here's what we're saying. All this Afro-Futurism, this is in the 90s and everything, is coming along. Same time we're writing, let's look at 2002. One more mountain to climb, one more river to cross, it really was. I'm gonna skip a lot of it. It says, okay, nearly every society and every group of people has developed or inherited some vision of the perfect or near perfect state of being. In this imaginary land, the sky is the bluest, the water is the purest, and the air is the freshest, and the birds sing with an angelic harmony. It is a social and political oasis in which the human being has overcome his base nature and developed through strong human will and extraordinary intellect. A place where freedom rings and truth and justice flow down like a heavenly stream. Utopian socialism holds that in this society, property groups will peacefully and voluntarily relinquish their holdings in order to achieve a common ownership of the means of production. In James Hilton's novel, Lost Horizon, there existed a place of virtual paradise on earth called Shangri-La. Classic movie Wizard of Oz, there was a song that was called Somewhere Over the Rainbow, referring to a place where dreams can come true. Okay, this is for our 2002 program, and we're writing about things, Afro-Futurism, all that. We're writing about that in our own words. Everything we're dealing with is related to practicalism. Now here we're trying to sell our community on the idea of visualizing the type of society that, whether it's utopia, Shangri-La, over the rainbow, is always people throughout history in every land and at every time have always visualized or dreamed of a better, almost perfect land. That it's possible if all the people of the world think about it, then it's got to be possible. What is this? Utopia is way back in Greek times. But utopia didn't mean what they call it now, a perfect society. It meant a good place. That's the meaning of utopia. A good place, not a perfect place, but a good place. We would call it where it's 80% good. You know, it's good. And 10% bad. And the other 10% we work it in between to straighten it out. We always have something to strive for. We won't call it perfection, we'll call it excellence. So, this, we'll call it utopianism. These somewhat mythical places are an inspiration for visionaries and dreamers, opening up a whole vista of possibilities. In many cases, human reality can be disturbing, if not downright depressing. During these times when humanity has sank to the lowest level, when all hope is gone, the human mind needs some relief. Like the black writers during the 90s, we remember the killing rate in the 90s. The poor black male was almost getting ready to get counted out. You don't exist no more, almost. He was in jail or getting shot down. In psychological studies, it is said that during times of depression, relief may come to the mind through imagery or imaginary mental voyages, escapism, even drug use and alcoholism. Our writers moved exactly what we're saying here at the same time. So I couldn't have read about this at that time. They just write it. To a type of escapism. And as it said at the end of this article, in the middle of it, that they would, African Americans were urged to escape tribulation by immigrating to the stars. Not that if the sun is a middle star, a middle-sized star, you got to have some serious heat protection. Since they got flames on the sun that you could put 3 Earths inside of the flames, not to son is 7, that boy is big. And they want a nigga to get away from the heat here, the police shooting. I think I'd just take chances with the police shooting than landing on the moon, on the sun. At 655 trillion degrees hot, you know. But what we're saying is this is normal. During those times of depression and oppression, this is what people come up with. It's not abnormal, it's normal. Black people used to have floating dreams. Floating dreams. Tell you the truth, I had them too. I had them up until I was out of penitentiary, maybe a year or two. I stopped having them. You talk about floating, uncontrollable float. Niggas just flying. That's because you're in jail. You can't do nothing. Your mind wants you to. So all the writings of black people having those dreams, they was floating and flying back to Africa. Everybody. So I'm not telling you something I heard about. I'd be right back there in the Masjid, sleep. And I'd be floating. I mean, really, where I can't hardly wake up and say, stop floating, man. You know you ain't going nowhere. I couldn't do it. I just kept on. And it was after I, some kind of internal mechanism where I feel that I am in control of a lot of my life, I stopped having it. It's something that God gives people. You know what I mean? Okay. Now, this stuff is real. What did we do in this stuff? What this is talking about is there's a collective mind developing. When we always talk about a collective mind, they had it in the 60s, the reason I'm doing it was the 60s. All here in America, we're talking about freedom, justice, and in Africa and other parts of the world, the people of color are decolonizing. All the same stuff happening at the same time. It's a collective mentality. The stuff we've been dealing with is going on in people's mind all over the world. The only thing is, all of our people, since we've been challenging the system, we're the only ones that have any experience with this. Theirs is still fantasy. You see what I mean? All of these, Wakanda is fantasy land. But everybody is hooked on it, right? And all these people that we didn't know about, every time you turn a page, this black writer's been writing all the time. Didn't nobody know about them, right? Just like they don't know, it wasn't that they just didn't know about us, they didn't know about them neither. And some trigger happens, click, and a light come on and people realize that's what this time is. As I was telling the brother on Friday, this era is, to me, is a reverse Superfly period. Superfly came by at a special time. The hero in the black community was not necessarily, especially in Oakland, was not the Black Panther Party. It was the slick niggas driving them big cars, all the cutie pies, pimping and all of that. Those were, it just so happened in Oakland that we had combined our stuff with blackism. The other Negroes, they didn't care nothing about raising black people up. In fact, the bigger you got, the more you want, man, I ain't messing around them niggas, them poor niggas, people you should hear about what the wealthy Negroes said about the poor Negroes. Good God Almighty. Them broke niggas, I don't want them coming around them poor. Oh, it was terrible. That it was a crime to be poor. It was pretty bad being black, but black and poor, goodness gracious alive. Didn't want to have nothing to do with nobody. That collective mind is here again today. Okay, now we've been archiving, we've been chronicling, right? We've been historicizing, and we've been projecting. We haven't just been accepting this bad situation. What we're trying to do, one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross, it comes from an old idea amongst black people. And we got one more thing to do. One more mountain to climb. Says for Muslims, we have our own utopia or Shangri-La. It's traveling back to the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa Rashidun, to a society that was in harmony with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where taqwa flowed and the fruits of Imam and ikhlas were found throughout. The difference between us and others is that our flights of mental hopefulness are real and achievable. Just as that great society once did exist, something similar to it can exist again. Through the proper human will and effort, it is achievable, even promised by our Creator. The only challenge is closing the gap between our current reality and the one that we dream of. This is the very mission of As-Sabiqun movement. It is also our theme for this year's conference. That was 2002. We had the last one. This is from 2000 when we went out to Oakland. I'll just read a few of these things. It's about why we formed, on and on and on and on. However, as we progress from one stage to another, we must also be sure to take into account the need for adjustment and correction. Of course, we believe that the anchor of our Sabiqun is the Quran and the Sunnah. But whenever there is movement in any direction, there's also the real possibility of drifting off course, which can become a major obstacle. This is why we as a community must reconvene from time to time to question ourselves. Where have we been? How have we adjusted? Have we handled ourselves in accord with our own expectations? And finally, are we still on the correct course in relation to our original intentions and calculations? This is, whenever you talk about any group or party, even great personalities like Chairman Mao, after people start, if you take from the 1920s up to the 1950s, he did a super job. But by the end of the 50s, they have the Great Leap Forward, 1959, and it was more like a great leap backwards. The idea to produce steel in little home ovens and stuff, each produce. They melted down everything they had in the society. By the millions of people, every house had a little kiln for melting down stuff. And they produced a lot of steel, a lot of hot metal, but it was worthless. It was worthless. So the Great Leap Forward in agriculture, breaking up common small, not small, but several families controlling a farm. So they made them total collective farms. Big, giant, what's the name? That might have been a mistake. Okay, by the time they caught the mistake, because the government is asking how much wheat and stuff are you producing, since they want the government to like them, they say, we're gonna grow 950 tons of wheat. They only have 200 tons, but they've inflated the, so the government think they got 800 or 900 tons, so they sell 2 or 3 tons, which is all they have, right, to Russia or somebody, and the people starve to death because it's not coordinated. They haven't came back together enough and being down on the ground, because the leader at the top, leadership at the top is accepting the information from the party down below, and the party down below wants to make progress, want to be loved, so they inflate what they have. So the party says, shoot, we got this much, we're just going to take a little bit, get us some money, and sell it around the world. And they do, and the people starve, although they didn't grow a nice amount. That's not coming together from time to time and looking at the real world and living in. If they'd have been living in the real world, nobody would have died. Some say 30 million, I don't know. Whatever it was, it really happened. So we as a community, we have to come together from time to time, if not as a group. I know I do it personally all the time. Now, we've been knocking the ball out of the park a lot. It ain't no big deal. I don't plan for the brother to get fat-headed or go crazy or get off his job. In fact, the more we hit it out of the box, the more, not cautious, but the more care we're going to use. Because at the highest level of slip, down at a low level, if you stumble off a curb, that ain't nothing. But if you fall off the roof, it's getting serious. You see what I mean?